It's 20 years since we first heard those chilling words, "The dingo's got my baby." What followed, of course, was one of those compelling stories that come along only once in a lifetime. A story that at first shocked and divided Australia and eventually left us shamed. I first met Lindy and Michael Chamberlain 14 years ago. It was Lindy's homecoming, her reunion with Michael and the family after 3 years in jail. Since then, a fair bit has changed. A painful divorce, new lives with new partners, even a new baby. It's still them against the world, still Lindy and Michael fighting for justice. But they no longer fight together. In fact, for this story, we couldn't even get them together in the same room. Well, let me ask you face to face what every Australian would ask you. Did you kill Azaria?
No way. I love that little girl.
It's the younger generation that is continually saying, look, I'm so ashamed of my parents and the rest of Australia. I want to apologise for them, and they're doing it. And
Do you
they're
get
looking
letters of
at
apology?
Yes.
It was 14 years ago that I first met Lindy Chamberlain. I met a woman just out of jail, convicted of murdering her baby girl and suddenly set free. Lindy was tiny and she was tough, determined to fight for justice.
The real fight for justice is only just starting. You might think it's nearly finished, but believe me, it's only just beginning.
14 years later, Lindy is still a fighter. She's still tough. But today, she has a new life, a new love, and she says with a laugh, a new body.
Much as I hate it, it looks like I've got to put up with it.
So it's a thyroid problem?
The thyroid problem.
And what are you doing about it? What can
I
you do?
swallow thyroid tablets every day because I'm very low on thyroid. I'd still rather be slim and more active because it does cut down on a lot of activities that I would like to do, and I get really frustrated where I go to crawl in a small space that wouldn't have made me think twice before and get stuck now and that sort of thing. But you know, that's life. You get used to new things and keep going. The jury all have masks on.
Blind justice hangs in Lindy's lounge room. It's a constant reminder from friend and artist Pro Hart why she must keep the fight going.
And then you have me here bowed by the weight of the court.
That's you, is it?
Michael in my shadow.
Lindy, do you have justice yet?
Almost.
What do you need?
The Northern Territory needs to apologise, for starters, and put death by dingo on the inquest.
It's 20 years almost to the day since the Chamberlain family came here to the Rock on a camping holiday. As the sun set, they fed the two younger children, Regan, who was 4 years old, and Azaria, who was 9 weeks, and they put them to bed in their tent. Now, several people that night saw dingoes prowling around the campsite. About 2 hours later, just after 8 o'clock, it was getting cold and the desert out there was pitch black. They heard Azaria cry out. So Lindy and 6-year-old Aidan ran back to the tent to see what was wrong. That's when the nightmare really began.
Go, get out. There's Dingo in the tent.
Did you go to university, Greg?
Dingo's got the baby!
You can drink it.
God, no, please, God, help me. The Dingo's got my baby!
What?
The Northern Territory powers that be, I won't give you any names, because they came to me unofficially and said, look, you can go free if you will only sign and say you did it. We will let you out. You know, just take it.
I think that the nation began to judge the Chamberlains' own personalities as if we were watching a telemovie.
And pull back the skin as they go. And
Melbourne lawyer John Bryson wrote the book that became the movie Evil Angels.
Well, if you've ever seen a dingo eat, there's no difficulty at all. If you've seen them eat the carcass of a cow, something like that.
But there's still this question mark, John, isn't there, that no one in the Northern Territory has ever officially said the dingo did it.
No. Who can say that? I can say that. The Dingo did it. There's no doubt that none of the Chamberlains did.
Before we were married, we took a trip from Washington down to California.
Lindy and her American husband Rick have come back to Australia to live, to be close to their church and bring the kids back together. Aidan lives nearby with Michael Chamberlain and his new family. Lindy and Michael no longer communicate easily. But Lindy, if you look over the last 20 years of your life, you've been to prison, you've lost a daughter, you've been accused of murdering a daughter, you've had a daughter taken away from you in prison, you've been divorced, you've remarried. What's been the most difficult experience of the lot?
The pain behind the scenes that the public didn't know about, obviously the divorce and what went with it and the reasons for it. It was a really difficult decision for me to have to make, and one I didn't want to make.
But you've made the point in your book, you said that you thought the whole tragedy had probably held you and Michael together rather than forced you apart.
Yeah, it did. Kept us together longer than it would have otherwise.
I think that we ought to put another dam over there.
In 1991, on a lecture tour in America for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, that's where Lindy met Rick Creighton. Rick was a successful businessman, and like Lindy, he was quite happy being single.
All in all, it's a great place to live.
I knew 4 days later, from seeing him walk around that corner, I suddenly realised, I don't believe this, I am totally head over heels in love, and I've had no say in this. I didn't see it happening. It just crept up, and I thought, well, boy, you know, you challenge God, he knows what to do. But I kept thinking, he's 9 years younger than me, he's from a different country, you're going home in a week. You know, what are you thinking of?
Oh, you needed the extra 9 years of energy for me to be able to keep up with you and the family, didn't you, dear?
Is she a hard-faced bitch? It's the phrase you use all the time, Lindy.
No way.
Well, that's what people tell me. Some of those that have been close to me tell me that. I can be if you're trying to walk all over me.
She won't take any guff, and some people call that hard-faced.
If Lindy wasn't tough, she wouldn't have survived.
I spent an hour and a half almost at one stage being asked, did I kill my daughter?
Friendly, isn't she?
You're so angry, you're so frustrated that you get almost an uncaring monotone.
But one thing has never changed. A moment or a memory, after so many years, will still trigger so many tears.
It's birthdays that I commemorate. They're a happy time.
So it's Azaria's birthday rather than the day that she disappeared.
Yeah, this year's was hard. Until you have actually seen the rock, you don't understand, but there's something so awesome about that place.
Lindy doesn't blame the rock for her family's tragedy, but she still believes there was some strange, funny business out there. But when you talk about a conspiracy, you see it more as an attempt by the authorities not to let the truth get out.
Yes.
Not some
That's the
individual.
only conspiracy I have ever seen, is that someone desperately did not want the truth out, and they perpetuated lies and twisted the truth, and that's what's caused the problems.
By full moonlight and crackling firelight, the Chamberlain kids chose to talk separately, so nobody could accuse them of taking sides.
think everyone sort of suffers through life in one way or another, and don't feel like I've had any more emotional stress than a lot of other people. Perhaps it's been a bit prolonged and a bit more public than I'd like it from time to time.
Aidan is an electrician by trade. Regan is studying to be a science teacher. Kalia is now a maths wizard in her final year of high school. Remember, Kalia was born in the Darwin jail.
I'm adverse to being called Lindy Chamberlain or Michael Chamberlain's daughter. So I suppose when I sign things, I've signed them with my first and middle name for a while, which is just kind of silly. It's just so people don't go, oh yeah, I know that name. It's not really something people need to know. I don't hide it, I just don't see any need to advertise it, I suppose.
Yeah.
I prefer just the Kalia.
Someday, Aidan would like to be a chef. Right now, though, he's in training for the National Enduro Bike Championships. Aidan was with his mother that night when Azaria was taken, and he's still deeply troubled by what he saw. At 26, he still can't talk about it. The movie, for example, The Evil Angel, did you see that?
Yeah, I've watched it a couple of times.
Can you be comfortable watching it, or is it too close to the bone? Your dad says he thinks it's almost true.
Yeah, it's a bit much.
Yeah. For you, Carly, is it about another family, another time, another life?
It's definitely surreal, but I don't know. It takes things like that to make it more real to me, and then I go off into my little dreamland of, no, that didn't really happen.
Amazingly, Regan now says that he remembers that night in the tent, when he was only 4, when Azaria was taken.
One of the things that I remember was the dingo walking across my chest, and I was a bit petrified about that, and not a bit petrified, very petrified, so much so that when Mum came into the tent and stuff like that, I wasn't necessarily thinking clearly, and I wasn't sure whether it had come back or what.
Now that's a story that you never told all those years ago, because nobody asked?
Mostly because nobody asked, yeah, and I was fairly much of a quiet nature there, and I don't know, I'd get asked a lot of stupid questions by the cops originally, asking repetitive questions or whatever. Being as a kid, I really couldn't see the point.
Have you been back to the Rock?
No.
Carly, you've been to the Rock. Do you remember how you felt?
I suppose, yeah, actually things hit me with a reality then. It's the first time I went, oh, guess what? I actually had a sister that died here before I was born, considering it's 20 years ago tomorrow, and I'm not even 18 yet.
Here is the resting place of Azaria, my 9-week and 4-day-old daughter, somewhere near this giant monolith. In a way, it's her tombstone, I guess.
Michael Chamberlain has kept a diary since his daughter disappeared, day by day for the past 20 years.
But for me, there is still an eerie foreboding about this place. I'm very fortunate to have with me my beautiful wife, Ingrid, and my daughter, Zara. She didn't take the place of Azaria, but she's done wonders for me as a most unexpected thrill of a little girl.
Zara is Michael's bright little princess. That's what Zara means, princess. So what have you told Zara about Azaria?
Well, I've told her as much as one can tell a little girl I've actually told her when she was 3, so she knew already then, just before she went to preschool, and she knows that. Well, what do you know? Do you want to tell us what you know about it? What happened here at Esronk?
My baby Azaria died.
Yeah, that was very sad, wasn't it?
But Michael, you said in this book this year that your divorce from Lindy was almost as difficult as the death of Azaria.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she says that the Azaria case actually kept the marriage together.
Yes, it did, in the sense that we were fighting for a common cause. But Lindy and I think, always knew that we were like chalk and cheese in our relationship, and we always had to work on it very hard. And probably there were some times when one of us didn't work on it as hard as the other one did.
You mean you?
Yeah, sometimes I think I'm to blame, for sure.
Because again, you said the truth is we did not have an ideal marriage.
No. But in a religious context, one has to try and show that they do have an ideal marriage, and that's the facade, and that's the problem. To think of a child being taken by an animal like the one when you took it, I mean, you'd think that through, and that's about the most horrible death you could ever experience.
Michael Chamberlain now wants some answers to this desert mystery.
Well,
you get the feeling he's back on the attack.
Actually, until now. One has to ask the question, why did it take so long to get justice? Why did it take 7 years and a woman in jail for 3 years? What actually happened to the total picture? What actually happened to the real evidence? The evidence that was either prima facie or close to prima facie.
Cover up?
There's an agenda right from day one. Why did one of the best Northern Territory detective sergeants, who has now spoken up recently in one of the newspapers, in a weekend newspaper, why did he get put off the case almost immediately he had come? Why was he told not to go any further? Those police did not want to report on anything relating to innocence in our situation.
Are you suggesting that the Northern Territory government at the time and the Northern Territory police were determined to find you guilty?
I believe they were. And the press, of course, were being fed all the time from the Northern Territory and from the New South Wales forensics. And so these little tidbits were coming out, just continually heaping and loading more and more guilt on us as a nefarious pair of people. And by the time we got to the second inquest, you know, it was all over. We were gone. There was 95% of Australia was that, yeah, they did it. But it was false forensic evidence that had done it.
I think that the jury, like the rest of us, knew that she was guilty. Quite wrong, but that was the fact. We couldn't shake off that feeling.
Lawyer John Bryson sat through all the Chamberlain inquests and the murder trial. He was writing his best-selling book. But like everyone else, he got caught up in what he now calls the Azaria syndrome.
There was certainly a conspiracy of the entire nation. I'd go that far. I think it was one that came to us as if it was second nature. That's what hurts me. There we are, essentially a fair people, and suddenly with this phenomenon, not at all. I mean, we knew, didn't we, that we were dealing with the most notorious little murderess in the history of the country. Who wanted to fail in that task?
Aboriginal people around here regard this as a sorry place for the Chamberlain family, and it is a sorry place. Michael and Lindy have some unfinished business here at the Rock. They need the Northern Territory government to reconcile the past, to apologise for what they did to the Chamberlain family so they can move on. The fact is, Michael and Lindy have picked up the pieces and gone their separate ways. But 20 years after Azaria, they still cry much too easily.
So I will come back to this rock again. I still have a memorial to put here.
Michael, what would you say on that memorial?
I wrote it down about 10 years ago.
In essence?
In essence, somewhere in this area, 4 kilometres east of this rock, lies my daughter taken by the hand of nature. That's all I want on it. Awaiting the resurrection.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minutes, segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.